What up, yo? It's your boy, One Sir Grove. I hope that y'all are having a wonderful, blessed day wherever you are in the world. This is episode 76 of Casting 495 Celebrities Worldwide, C4CW. I don't know what time it is where you are, but man, if it's daytime, nighttime, somewhere in between, if you've tuned in before, or this is your first time, man, I sincerely appreciate that. So, yo, man, oh, football season. It's fall. It's cool, cooler, colder weather right now. And yeah, man, just thinking back, this episode is about football, sports, in the old school, like video games and junior high school. Just fun shit, man. So for entertainment purposes, man, as everyone should know, as adults, we do not um engage in actual like gang activity, dude. As adults, we are entertainers. Okay, we were in gangs when we were younger, and we don't do gang shit as adults. We just don't. Like, that's just part of our history and shit. Growing up on the West Coast, man, you grow up on the West Coast. I mean, you could go to church and you could, join a faith based group or whatever you want, man. Some people, man, they live in neighborhoods where gangs are just everywhere. You get up in the morning and the gang is just right there, man. And wherever you go about throughout your city, fucking gang is just there. So some kids, man, they grow up in neighborhoods like that, like I did and shit. And so, people join gangs, man. And then you get older and you go to college. Just, that's, you ain't active in the gang anymore, man. You just like, all right, we all did that. And then you're just not gang active. You're an inactive former gang member. So that's the history of 495. And, fucking some of the homies get married and shit. Some of the homies join the military. Some of the homies fucking become computer programmers and computer scientists and shit. Fucking working in corporate sectors, finance. I mean, you name it, man. I come from a town that is technically considered a metropolitan area, but it's a small town out west, and it's a military town, man. At some point, it became a military Navy town, and my parents were both in the military. Dad in the Army, mother in the Army. And my mother left the Army after 4 years and was in the Navy for 20 plus years. So she said she spent 20 plus years in the military, and they traveled all over the world. So a lot of my friends, their parents were in the military, or parents worked for Boeing and defense companies. Man, had a lot of friends who their dads were like tradesmen and craftsmen, and did a lot of work in terms of like home building and furniture, floors, painting. My homeboy, lots of general contractors and construction builders, and is fucking the Pacific Northwest, man, the West Coast and California. And so a lot of our friends also, we talk about the Northwest, man. Just as, you think it's like Seattle or fucking Everett, Tacoma, or like California. But in reality, man, when you live out west, it's really all just one mega block of cities, man. I mean, I've been all throughout Oregon, and I used to go to Oregon like every summer and shit, chill on the beaches and everything. And so that's how it is out west, man. You get a lot of that, and the beach and doing beach parties. There's a place we used to go to, man. It was called Bums Island and shit. We used to have like huge like beach parties and shit down along the beach, and Muckle Beach, and fucking Um, what was it? Oregon Shores. Was it that? No, that doesn't sound right. Ocean Shores. Ocean Shores. We'd go to Oregon, man, and go to different places in Oregon and Vancouver, Astoria, um, state fairs, shit, hiking, fishing, boating, water sports, man, fucking hiking. Used to hike mountains. Uh Climbing, out in the hills, going on a trek and shit. A lot of biking, a lot of bike riding, um, mountain bikes, fucking motorbikes, you name it, man. We've done all that shit. That's just the life out west, man. So, um, and then the other thing is that cats from out west, they don't always just stay like in California, man, or Washington. They go out to like Idaho, up to Vancouver, BC, California, Northern California, Bay Area, San Diego. And one of my friends from childhood who was in Cub Scouts and played sports with me. Um, he came out here to the East Coast, man, and he flies helicopters for the U.S. military, and he's in the U.S. military. I have a lot of friends that join the military and have been overseas, abroad, and stationed all over. Have friends who worked at Microsoft. Oh, excuse me. Have friends who worked at Microsoft when they were young, like fresh out of college, and and people who are, man, my graduating class, the kids I know, man, who I grew up with by Western standards, kids I grew up with, man, my peers are smart. We had one of the schools I attended. It was we had the number one science facility for any high school like west of the Mississippi. The year that it was built, and like for subsequent years, it was like the number one science lab for any high school in the United States west of the Mississippi. So we had resources, man, in my small town, and because I mean it was considered later a city, but I mean it's really just a fucking small town originally. Didn't even have 100,000 fucking people. But people came there ultimately from like all over the world because the Navy came and posted up there. And then yeah, so people from out there, man, they spread out to different parts of the country, man. I mean, I've got fucking peers who live in like Oklahoma, man, and just all over. And buddy of mine, man, who I've talked about on the show before, he was a peer of mine and someone who grew up in my neighborhood. He's an actual genius, man. He looks like Pierce Brosnan, and he's a professor of mathematics. He travels the world and he lectures. He gives he attends symposia and conferences, and he's a PhD in mathematics. And he's been all over the world, man, to many different countries and stuff. So when we do our music, our stories, man, about the West Coast are stories that people don't know about, mostly that they're based loosely on exploits and our escapades, man, and our history of growing up on the West Coast. Like, we don't be active doing the shit that we talk about in the rhymes, man. It's actually from another timeline. It's from the late 1980s going into the 1990s. And because the world's different, man. And the city landscape, like where I come from, like I have intel on it. People be filling me in, and I've got tools, and I be checking it out and shit. From fucking, satellite. Like, and people told me, man, like when I moved to Chicago, I mean, even it's interesting how rapidly cities change now with modern technology because of how quickly, buildings can be constructed, and with new modern, technology, computer aided drafting, and just everything that we as humans know, like city landscapes like shift all the time. Like if you go out of town for a year and you come back, you're like, holy shit, what is this place? I mean, it can literally be like that, man. It's very odd. So it's interesting looking back, man, on the city that I grew up in, the town, because it's not the same fucking place anymore, man. It's not almost not even at all. It's literally like it looks different. It's the I mean the demographics, it's all fucking different. Like it's kind of hard to explain, but it really is kind of sort of like a parallel universe. There were like swaths of the city where there were like kids and families and like schools and all that kind of shit, right? Like, neighborhoods and community like life, and it was like lively and bustling and shit, right? Man, now it's like opioid addiction, like boarded up buildings, and they fucking they took the town there in the north, and they like made it all basically like a college tip of the northern part of that town. So it's like all just like this college, it's just like a college campus, like northern tip. It's weird. And shit ain't there like it used to be, man. I mean, it's bizarre. It's like really hard to describe. And, like there were so many characters and so many players and so many like pimps and hustlers, and I mean, that shit still exists anywhere and everywhere, right? But like, it's, man, it really is hard to describe. It's like, it's not really the town anymore, man. It's like, it's a different other town. And though it's, I guess, technically, supposedly, the same town, it really isn't though, man. And I'm telling you this because it's kind of eerie, dude. Like I was peeping it the other night, man, through tools, software, and like analytical tools and whatnot, man, and talking to people, and they were telling me shit, man, about like these towers going up and all this kind of stuff. And I'm looking at the fucking city, man. I'm looking at the town through fucking satellite and shit. And man, I'm telling you, dude, it's not the fucking same place, man. And all my people, man, they know it too. Like 495 knows it. It's so weird. It's like people talk about it like, yo, man, like I got a couple homies in Atlanta. One of them be like between ATL and Texas. The other one's between like here in New York, Atlanta, Detroit, like DC, LA, and then I have a cousin who was in England, who I've talked about before, and just like friends, man, like literally like hundreds of peers, like hundreds of people I've known since childhood, literally hundreds of people who I'm like in contact with, and people just be talking about, and then throughout the city, like not just my peers, but people I'm acquainted with, like I've met before. Like I know thousands of people, man. I used to out west. I used to do concerts. I used to produce concerts. I used to perform on stage at shows and concerts and whatnot, man. Outdoor, indoor events, and man, so I be peeping the different groups and stuff, man, where people chat about like the goings on of the city and stuff, and people talk about it, man. It just ain't the same. It just ain't the same place anymore, man. It's weird. It's really fucking weird. It's really hard. It's hard to explain too, but yeah, man, fucking strange. But yeah, man, that's a reality. And then like, so anyway, so that's what it was like growing up. And then we also played a lot of sports. I've talked about that before. We played a lot of sports. Sports was a big thing, man. We had a community college. In fact, it's the same community college that I was referencing when I was talking about how they've expanded that campus, and now it's like the northern tip of the city is like a campus, because the campus is like sprawled and it's taken over like streets and buildings, and where it used to be residential and like commercial, but now those residential and commercial spaces are gone, and the college has that land and property. It's really weird, man. Um, and if you know like that part of town like I do, that's just weird because it was already. I mean, man, here's what's a trip. Like that college, like even growing up, you man, it's kind of hard to explain. Like you'd rarely see, even though it's a college, you'd rarely see people like on the campus or around it. Like you'd rarely see like people there. Like some college campuses, the parking lots be packed out, and it's like people are like all over because they're students and they're backpacking and stuff like that. Man, I'm telling you, dude, I never saw that shit at around that part of town that I grew up in. That's what's really fucking weird is like growing up thinking back, man, and even when I was there, I always was like, man, there's something weird about this fucking place. And I'm just telling you, man, like I've been I've been in more than half the United States, and you see colleges and there are people on campus and walking about and shit. This campus, man, is weird because it wasn't like that before. Like you didn't see hardly anybody down and around that campus. And when we were kids, we used to go and fucking like play ninja, and we'd like crawl into like this little secret elevator space. Like you could stop the elevator and then you could like open it up onto this like weird level. It was really weird. Like we did a lot of dangerous shit like that, a lot of daredevil shit. But we found out because we used to be, tag artists, because we would tag in addition to just being like part of our posse. Like we would tag up walls and stuff, and we were quite artistic. So we would break out the Magnum 44 pen, and we'd fucking stop the elevate. Anyway, this is shit, dude, like 30 years ago or more. But we were fucking teenagers, dude. And, we used to fucking spray paint too, man. We used to graffiti. And so, not glorifying it, just saying that we did it. We were dumb as kids, man. I mean, we were high IQ and we were smart on one hand, but we also did dumb shit. But yeah, man, fucking, we figured this thing out at this place where you could like, I don't even remember how we figured it out. We were just being fucking reckless and just, daredevils, man, we were fucking kids, man. And we were into like ninja shit. So we just kind of like did this thing once where we stopped the elevator. We're like, hey, there's the button. Let's press it and see what happens. So we pressed it and the elevator stopped. We're like, oh, okay. Elevator stops when you press this button. Interesting. I think it actually, now that I'm talking about this out loud, I think it actually, we would do something with the alarm, and when you do the alarm, it would stop the elevator. So we'd press the alarm and it would like make the sound, and we're like, that's fucking crazy. Like we just pressed the alarm, like it's totally illegal. Like we're not supposed to do that. And plus it stopped, right? And so then and then we figured out how to open the elevator door while it was stopped. And when we did that, we found this level at the college that's like not on a map. It's like in between. It's weird. And you come out onto this like floor that's like a hidden floor. The more I think about it, man, this is like a suppressed memory, dude, from fucking like 30 something years ago. And that is fucking weird that shit is there. The more I think about this. Because I totally fucking forgot. I mean, it was been in the background of my mind, but I kind of forgot about it. So yeah, there was this weird thing, man. I don't know. And I remember we got off the elevator and we would walk around on this level, and it was like a corridor. And I think there were some doors. We'd like open up some doors to some rooms that were just like empty. And like maybe some chairs or something in there. We're kids. We don't, at the time know what everything is for. But there would be like maybe some cabinets or something. And then um, we always had this sense like, okay, let's go, man. Let's like fucking, we're gonna get found out. Like if we stick around, and we would do that periodically. We'd be like, hey man, let's go down to the college and go to and do that thing in the elevator and fucking hit up a new tag. And we would tag, man, like little tags and shit, right? So, um, we 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 fucking, and man, I I man, so here's the deal. So there were a lot, interestingly, because we played a lot of sports and we were into like video games like hugely. And like we were obsessed with fucking video games growing up, man. And so, they're all like the games that we play were like quest games and like adventure games and like, dungeon games and this kind of stuff. Dungeon Quest, um, like Link, Zelda, and other games. One of the games that I talked about before, Faxanadu, Mylon Secret Castle, um, fucking some of the raddest games ever made in history. And so since that was like a big part of our life, right? These strategies and like um, using maps and blueprints and things like this, and then combined with like the whole ninja phenomena of like playing ninja and like fucking we had a martial arts shop downtown where we could go and buy like stars and shit, shurikens, but you're supposed to be 18, but we always found ways to buy shit. um we used to fucking creep around, man, with like gear, and we would go and check out, because I mean, in certain parts of the city, it's like retirement community, like ex-military, like retirees and whatnot, like just folks that are retired, man, from industries and whatnot, a lot of seniors. And so a lot of times, man, in different parts of the city, it's just like a vacuum. Like people just didn't even know, what the fuck we were doing. We were just kids, man, growing up on this like landscape. And man, we used to fucking go up in like buildings just to see and explore and find out like what was there. Like the basement level, like the sub basement level, like crawling through rafters. Man, we used to do a lot of dangerous, like reckless shit, man. The electrical room, like fucking creeping around power stations, substations, like just shit that we shouldn't have been doing, man. And I mean, I remember growing up on when I was like at picnics with like the family at like military bases and shit. Man, I'd be creeping around military bases as a kid when they didn't have surveillance like they do now. And I'd be opening like doors and shit, and like, man, just seeing weird shit when I think back, like, okay, that was 1980 and I was fucking 5 years old, kindergarten, fucking creeping through like military bases, and I opened that door and I remember some of the shit I saw, man. And it's thinking back, it's like, how did they have that technology back then? That doesn't even make any sense, man. That's an anachronism. And yeah, man, that shit is weird. Like, what the fuck was that? Like those electronics, man, that seems like some shit from now. Just like weird shit, man. Like rooms, like places with like equipment and instrument panels and man, I'm telling you, like there's weird shit about Timespace, dude. But anyway, man, one of the things that was interesting that we learned when we were kids is that the way that these cities are built, when people build buildings, man, in the masonry of it all, like the foundation of the buildings, and like skyscrapers and high rises and commercial and residential and mixed use, man, there's a lot of weird fucking shit in society, and just levels, man. And we would encounter stuff like that. Like there would be a building like built on top of another building. Or there would be like, for example, there a lot of times I remember we would stumble upon like corridors where like they're not even on the blueprint for the building. And we're like, what is this for? Like, why did they build this? Like, what is in here? And it was so interesting, man, is there was like never anybody in any of those spaces. Like no one ever said, "Hey, what are you kids doing? You got to get out of here." Like there was like, I don't know, man. It's so bizarre. Like thinking back, and like my one of my friends, his parents were like super wealthy. Like they lived in this big ass estate, right? And smart kid, man. Like like that kid was a fucking computer wizard, like legit, like computer wizard, like out of the movies, like wizard. And he was smart, man, and I always respected him for his intellect. And I lived with my uncle who was by Western standards semi wealthy, pretty much wealthy, and the neighborhood that we lived in, it overlooked the coast, and bay windows and everything. Well, the like literally 1.5 blocks down from where I lived with my uncle, when my mother was in the armed forces and would travel quite a bit and whatnot, she I would stay with my uncle, man, for extended periods of time. And at some point I actually lived at my uncle's house. And the we had my cousin and I, my uncle's son, who's my age, he we had a mutual peer from school who lived like a block and a half from us. Well, his home was this fucking gigantic estate, even by the standards of that particular neighborhood we lived in. My uncle had a dope property like himself. Like he had a fresh spot, man. Like his crib was the shit. But this friend of ours from school, this computer whiz, his I can't even remember, his dad was some kind of technologist or whatever, and technocrat, and fucking dude, they had this, and so for privacy, like I'm not going to say his name, but he does big, his son, my friend from childhood, he's on tour with a major production. Like he does a big production for like a company that y'all are familiar with. And he's I'm sure highly paid for that. He was always fucking super talented, man. Um, and the company that he works for is like an American institution. It's like something that like everyone like knows about. But at any rate, and I want to say, without giving it away, just again for reasons of privacy, I think he does animatronics, or maybe it's makeup, something like that. But it's highly technical, and but he would show me things on the computer that they had that were amazing. I mean, like state of the art. I'm talking like state of the art, like super expensive, like fucking hardware. And like their manor was fucking dope. I'm talking like, man, that property out here on the East Coast, dude. If you were to bring that property out to the East Coast out here, that home would be worth fuck, man, maybe $10 million, close to $10 million. Dude, they had a stair, okay, so check this out. They had this level of the home. There's an entire level of the home through a secret staircase. So as you're going up the stairs, there's like a mirror in the hallway, and you're just like, oh, it's just a mirror, and like I see myself in the mirror, right? If you knew where the little latch was, you could open it up and pull it open, and then it opened up into this level between levels. It was a whole floor, with furnishings and like things. It was like, dude, that, man. I'm talking about, there was an entire floor of the home that's hidden behind a mirror, and that's real shit. But yeah, man, there would be fucking um, levels that we would find like that, and that was a recurring theme. Um, the just the way buildings are built, I guess. that was uh that was kind of a thing that builders would do um then. And so we would be amazed when we would come across that kind of situation where, we're creeping around and we're just kids and we're going to these like restricted areas and it's like off limits and we're like, let's keep sneaking. And then I mean, even dude, there was this hospital we used to creep around, a couple of them, and those buildings, there were some like mysterious levels there too, man, on some different floors where it's just kind of like, huh, yeah, this is weird. Like, what is this for? This doesn't like, I mean, just like shit where there wasn't anything there, and it's not like it was just not being used. You just get a feeling about it, man. Like you get a feeling about it, like, hold up, man. Like, what are they doing here for real? Like, this doesn't even look medical. Like, this looks like something else. And it didn't even look like administrative. It was like hard to explain, man. And and again, there would never be anybody there. Like we would like cautiously like creep, but nobody ever like popped out and said, "Hey, you kids aren't supposed to be in this part of this building." It was like unoccupied spaces, but in a very strange way. And man, sometimes we'd encounter multiple floors of stuff like that where it wouldn't just be one floor. And then like there would be times we'd be like, "Man, how did we get to that one level?" And we used to use like tricks to like gain access to like buildings and shit. Like we'd walk in and like as kids, like, just man, kid shit, like asked to use the restroom and have like a skateboard or something. I mean, we were fucking young, dude. I mean, we were creeping through buildings and shit when we were literally like 5 years old because it was a game. Like, there was no internet, and we were always like, we were always trying to figure out what it was all about. And so we just see like a building and shit. I mean, there were times like we'd see like a condemned building in the city and we'd be like, "Hey, it's condemned. We know we're not supposed to go in there. Let's go in there. There's an open passageway right there through that fence. We can go through there, through that like window down into that basement and then up into the like upper part." And we'd just be creeping through like old fucking buildings, dude, that were condemned, just checking shit out. Like, what's in here? Like, why is it condemned? Just fucking stupid, reckless shit, man. As kids, we were children. Um, and Man, there was a place in our city that was out in the woods. It was an old bomb shelter and shit, and stoners used to go back there and smoke. And we came up with this because we were kids. We came up with this name for this fictional mythical like entity, and we called them the Mojave Cyclops. And we were like, "Hey man, let's come up with this story about this fucking fake being that like comes out here and like, you know, oh yeah, man, you talking about going to the bomb shelter? You guys gonna go smoke a bowl? Because that's what it was about back in the day, was like smoking bowls of fucking pot." So people would be like, "Yeah, man, we're going to the bomb shelter. Why? What's up? Y'all want to come along?" We'd be like, dude, have you, man, the fucking Mojave Cyclops is out there, man." And they'd be like, "The what?" And we'd be like, "Don't you know, bro? Like, you got to be careful, man. If you go to the bomb shelter, dude, the fucking Mojave Cyclops is out there in the fucking forest." And, we'd just be telling people shit like that. And one of the things that was kind of cold, man, my cousin did this thing, man, once. We both did. We both did it. We were both in on it. And by the way, we were like fucking, I think 9 years old. Yeah. And so we were at this track, right? Of like a track and field. We were at this field where people ran track and field, right? And we were, by Western standards, like I said, I mean, my mother was military and state government, And so, there was a time when we were considered low income, but she ultimately got her degree. And we moved into a condo and then bought a house. Um, but I was with my wealthy uncle a lot of times. So as kids, it's not like we were hurting for money, man. I mean, even like by low income like standards where I was with my mother's situation, we were like we were like I guess we were low income for a minute. I mean, granted, but um if we ever really ever truly had any situation where we needed like money, dude, my grandmother and grandfather, they were like right down the street. My mother was just a soldier, dude, and she didn't want to ask them for anything, for any help. So she raised us by herself. Um, I mean, my uncle raised me as well, but nonetheless, he we were down the street from where my cousin lived, right? On the wealthy side of town. So we didn't need any money, dude. We had allowance money and shit, dude, and we were just we were being punk kids, dude, and it was wrong. But we noticed that there were these people that were coming to this event, and we ran track and field. Like we did sports. Well, I did. And my cousin and I, we kind of looked at each other like, hey, look, dude, people are coming. Now keep in mind, we were literally like 9 fucking years old. 9 years old. This is the kind of shit we were doing when we were like 9 years old, man. So my cousin, and it's wrong, dude, and it was wrong for us to do this, but my cousin was like, hey, man, I got an idea. And I was like, what is it? Are you thinking what I'm thinking? And he's like, yeah, dude. Like, people are coming to this thing. All we got to do. And they had a little box, like one of those little booths, right? But there was no one in it. And we knew that college inside out. Like, we knew that campus like inside out. And we used to go there and fucking throw ninja stars. In fact, I think on that day we actually had we had a camouflage like shuriken, a fucking big one, dude, like a super dangerous fucking shuriken. And we had some like throwing knives and some like other shurikens, and we were down at the college like throwing stars like to practice on this wall where we would throw on this wall. And we'd sometimes go there with like other kids and like from the neighborhood, and like we'd all throw stars at this wall. So we had like chucks and shit, nunchucks, and fucking we had our like bags like off to the side or with us or whatever. And then all of a sudden these people started to show up, and we're like, oh fuck, there's an event here today. What are they doing? And they're gonna play soccer. So the little unoccupied little like booth thingy that when you walk through the gate, where there would ordinarily be like a ticket salesperson there. My cousin and I we got in the booth, and these people that would walk through the gate, they would literally just walk up to us and be like, how much is the event? We'd like $10. And they're like, okay. And they just fucking give us money. We got caught though, man. We got caught because what happened was, I mean, dude, we were fucking so stupid. We went home and, we were kids, so we would blab about shit sometimes, man. We went home, which was like 2.5 blocks down the street. We lived super close to the fucking, to the college. We fucking walked back to the house because we're like, shit, we just made like $20-$30. And back then, dude, $20-$30 was a lot of fucking money. It really was. I mean, this is the 1980s, dude. This was the 1980s. It was not the 1990s. So this is the 1980s when this happened. So we go back to the house and we've got like the money in our hand, or like we pull it, or it's in our pocket and we like pull it out in the house or something like that. And we're like counting it up. And my aunt comes out and she's like, what are you guys doing? Where'd you get that? And we're like, oh man, some dude. And we just told her, we're like, cause she demanded to know. And we're just like, she's like, where'd you get that? That's a lot of money. Did you steal that? Like, is that my money? And we're like, no. And then we're like, all right, so here, look, we got it from some, the people down the street at the college. It's just like, what are you talking about? And we were like, well, they were coming through the gate, and we were like pretending to like charge admission. We were pretending to charge admission. She's like, you You take that back to those people right now. And we were like, okay. So we took it back to him, dude. Um, Cause man, we were kids, dude. We didn't, we would do shit, but then we knew it was wrong. And so, but, yeah, man, we went back to the dude and the guy was like, huh, what? And we're like, yeah, we were just pretending. It doesn't really cost anything. And he's like, okay, well, you know, all right, whatever, and we were just like, here's your money back, dude. But I mean, yeah, so, but back then, dude, it was a different world. It was a different time. Shit was more innocent back then. And, but it was really interesting though, dude. Like I said, creeping through like different building structures and just seeing how like things were designed and like secret levels of like buildings. And yeah, that was the precursor, man, to 495.